Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight, brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing, the earth-friendly publisher with books for both adults and children, in a wide variety of genres, available in paperback and hardcover, as ebooks and with some audiobooks as well. In the Spotlight is a wide-ranging weekly interview show with authors, entrepreneurs, professionals, and other experts. Your host is Cynthia McGregor. Opinions and views expressed by the guests or hosts on this show do not necessarily reflect the opinions and views of the creator, Crimson Cloak Radio, the network, the hosts, or sponsors. And now, here's Cynthia.
Thank you, Carly McCracken, and welcome everyone to another edition of In the Spotlight. My first guest this week is Michael Sharpe. Michael is the founder of Acute by Design Publishing and is its former publisher. He's now the advisor to the publisher. He's an author in his own right. He's worked in both the private and public sector, including almost 20 years as an educator. His academic background includes a BA from Columbia University and his master's in counseling psychology from Norwich University. Michael has published several books, including The Last Drop of Sunshine, There's a Tiger in My House, The First African American Princess, and his recent successful short novel, Poor Pepe. In Michael's free time, what free time? Michael, I know you don't have any free time.
That's true.
He mentors young teens and adults and enjoys playing the piano, playing racquetball, gardening, and cruising to warm climates. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, it's good to be back with you, Sin.
Good to have you. Let's talk about your book that you're almost ready to publish, Matsangu's Three Loves. It's a unique title, Matsangu's Three Loves. It almost sounds like a ménage à quatre, but I know better. However, let's clue the audience in.
That sound, maybe I can rewrite it to get that category, but Matsangu's Three Loves is a very interesting title because it's a historical short novel in a sense, and it begins in 1609 in Jamestown, Virginia, and it deals with a slave ship that had a rebellion off of the Jamestown coast, and the slaves, they weren't slaves, they were actually captured Africans, escaped off the ship and went through Jamestown up into the Smoky Mountains there in Virginia and found a secret passageway and created a African kingdom on American shores. And the book is so that's the initial part of it. And Matsangu was a little boy who was captured, and he has three very important loves in that story. And I can't really get into his loves because it would really give away a big part of the story. But it's historically based. The dates and the figures and the things that are happening during those times were actually going on. But the story, on the other part, is fictitious. So I really got into writing that, and it's been a work of love for the past, at least 2 years. And so we're going to hit the press with that. We're pretty sure by the end of December, sometime in January. So I'm very excited.
And who is the audience you're aiming at with this book, Michael?
That's really interesting. I've done some test reads. I did test reads on Facebook. What I do is I write the story, and then I ask people, anyone who wants to read the book, I'll send it to them free electronically, and they'll send back their comments. And I was getting comments back from young adults, older adults, and just a wide range from young adults to older adults in terms of commenting on the book and being interested in it. So it seems to me it's going to be high school right through 90 years old. Really good feedback. Some of it stung, but when you put your work out in a public arena and say comment, you have to expect that. So, but I was excuse me, very happy with the comments.
Is it mainly appealing to history buffs, do you think, or?
No, history buffs it appeals to them because it really gets into what happened at the beginning of the American experiment, if you will, in the early 1600s with the settling of Jamestown, and how historically, in fact, this year, many in the United States celebrated 1609 as the year that the first slave ship came into America. They didn't celebrate; they acknowledged the historical point of it, and it just coincidentally, the story that I'm talking about starts in 1609, but it's the second or third slave ship that sort of comes on to the eastern seaboard coast here in the United States, and becomes interacting with the people, the colonial people here, and so history buffs have a interest in it, but it also at one point takes you back to the Africa where the little boy was captured, and talks about his community, his parents, and what these folks were doing before they were ripped from their lives on their continent of Africa.
But he doesn't stay a little boy in the story. He grows up.
No, he grows up, and he interacts with the king of the kingdom that has settled in the Virginia mountains in a hidden place, and is very instrumental in helping that kingdom stay safe and get off the ground. Also, interesting enough, the Indians at that time, who were just starting to really battle with the colonists because they were being pushed off their land, and they were being killed and things like this. He interacts between the Indians and the Africans in the mountain to help create a relationship. So he plays a very, very important role as the story unfolds, and he becomes a young man, and he's assigned a life and death mission of getting to the east, up into Connecticut, Rhode Island, in order to do something that I can't tell you. It helps save the kingdom.
Take a drink of something.
I'm fine.
Okay. The ending of the book is a bit of a cliffhanger. Is there going to be a sequel, I take it?
Yeah, there's definitely a sequel. I thought about putting it all in one book, but I wanted young folks to read the book and not to be encumbered by a huge novel of 500 pages, but to really get into it, understand what's going on, and really desire to read the next part of the book without having been scared away because it's a huge book. That used to scare me when I was younger. So there is a sequel, and it's riveting, and I hate to leave it at that for any listeners in terms of just saying it's riveting, but I can't tell they don't tell you the ending of Star Wars, and I can't tell you the ending of Mansangle's Three Loves. It's comparable, so there we are.
Well, Michael, what will a reader walk away feeling or understanding after reading Mansangle's Three Loves?
I think that's a really good question, and I think the understanding or the feeling is that they'll have a real sense of historical time from the early 1600s, 1700s. as things started in America and how the colonies unfolded, how slavery unfolded. What were some of the personal reactions of individual people to what was going on, and then it allows people to come through the growing of America and how racism sort of began and perpetuated itself in the American system. So when you come away, there's a lot of historical context you have in place, but also hopefully a lot of questions that will but encourage people to look at some other books and some other historical things that help explain sort of the history of our country from the eyes of African American.
Michael, what prompted you to write this story?
The truth, what got me sort of into it, I was writing another book that was originally more of a children's book called the first African American Princess, and it was more of a historical fantasy. And the more I wrote that, the more the part of Sango.
Ignore that. My phone is ringing in the computer.
Okay.
My phone is ringing in the computer. Ignore it.
I'm trying to ignore it. Let's see.
I don't know how to stop it. Okay, it stopped.
Okay. That's no different than the emergency alarm that goes off, the warning drills, and you have to stop and listen to all the noise and wait till it finishes. Now, where was I?
You were talking about the first African American princess and how that inspired.
How I got into Mansango. And so the more I wrote the little fantasy piece, which was more for the younger kids, I started to think about how that similar type story could be told for young adult readers, which was my focus, but it actually became a young adult reader. But that's how it began. I was writing a sort of a children's fiction around the first African American princess, and then I said, gee, how interesting would it be if you could sort of go back from the point that slavery and the capturing of Africans from the continent occurred, and tell a story that humanized a person and a people, so that the history was put into context with emotions and the growth of this young boy from a kid to a young man in a continent that he didn't know originally. So that's how I got into it, and then after that, it just became just a work of love.
And the book is coming out, you say, at the end of December?
With prayer for wishes, we are looking at the end of December, sometime in January being the worst case scenario. I thought I was done, and I had a couple of professional readers, actually including yourself, read the final document, and there are a number of suggestions that really do enhance and improve the story. So I'm trying to incorporate some of those suggestions. So I figure I would have that completed and ready to go somewhere, probably January, be a safer bet than the end of December.
What else are you working on or promoting nowadays besides Mansango's Three Loves?
Well, you know, I've been pushing Poor Pepe.
Yes.
Poor Pepe was another book of love, and I just think that is just the most wonderful book, and it's gotten tremendous reviews. But Poor Pepe starts with a young girl of about 14 who crosses from Guatemala, comes across through Mexico into the United States illegally, and with a caravan, and it sort of documents what happens with her life after she crosses that border. And she has a son, and her son is really not adjusting well to the lifestyle that she's leading as a she's basically an undocumented worker doing work under the table, and so it has a real impact on him. And he struggles right through high school trying to figure out who he is and how he plays in this world, and how his community does or does not support him. And the interesting thing about Poor Pepe, I sort of create a different type of world to tell the story, because Pepe and his mom are from Guatemala, but they live in a county, in a town that's very, very rich with other Hispanic, Latino Americans. And so they're the poorest people in that town, and they live in this house, very poor house. It sits between the rich people in the hills and the very rich shopping center on the other side, and you have to pass their house to get to either. And so the story sort of unfolds with Pepe not adjusting well to the fact that everyone rides by his very poor house. But the ending has a sort of a nice twist to it, in that the community, he didn't realize, but the community has been supporting him and helping him all of his life since he was a young boy living there. But he didn't know that, and so he had a very adverse reaction to his living situation, and it's a very warm story.
It's a heartwarming story with an ending that will bring a few tears to your eyes.
I've read folks saying that. I've had a number of people writing in that
Michelle said that too.
Who was that?
Your daughter.
Oh, well, she cries at Disney movies and commercials on TV and all, so I have to take her crying with a grain of salt. But when everyone else is crying, then I know there's some serious crying going on. But my daughter, actually, who's now the publisher of Acute by Design, she has just a really keen insight to quality books and stories, and she's a real blessing to Acute by Design.
Now, where can Poor Pepe be purchased?
As they say in the commercials, at any good American bookstore. But Poor Pepe is at Amazon. It's at Barnes & Noble. You can purchase it on acutebydesign.com on their web store. But that's probably the easiest, most direct place to get it, acutebydesign.com. But if you can't get to that, Amazon carries it, Barnes & Nobles carries it, and if you just actually Google it or type it into your search engine, it will turn up multiple places you can purchase the book.
Now that's barnesandnoble.com, right? You can't walk into a bookstore, you can't walk into a bricks and mortar Barnes and Noble and find it on the shelf. Is that correct?
That would be touch and go luck. So you'd have to know it was at a particular Barnes and Noble. So you would go online. That would be your best bet in terms of getting the book as quickly as possible without walking into a whole bunch of different stores. Do you have Poor Pepe? If they don't, they'll get it for you. But easiest is to go barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com, or best, acutebydesign.com.
Now, can Nat Sangu's Three Loves be pre-ordered yet, or is it too early?
No, it probably will go up for a pre-order. That will definitely happen in December, but it's not up now. So folks that are listening to the radio show here are getting the first heads up on Mansango. And I also, I'm going to send it out for another test read. So if anyone is interested in doing a read for free electronic copy, just drop a note to Acute by Design, and we'll send you a copy, as long as you send back to us your comments. whatever the comments may be.
What address should they send it to?
You can leave a note with acutebydesign.com. There's a contact form on there where you can just say, please send me a copy of the electronic copy and give me your address, and whoever's answering on that day will send it out right away. So acutebydesign.com, just go to contact and just say what you want.
Now, when do you think you'll have the follow-on, the sequel to Masango, finished?
You're really pushing me here.
Yep.
I'm not sure. I kind of want to sit back and see how the public responds to Mansango's Three Loves. The bigger the response, the more motivation I have to just jump in and finish up the sequel. And the sequel, when I start writing that, I'm just going to sit down. I'll probably just go down. I'm leaving for Florida very shortly, and I probably will just hole up there right somewhere in the sunshine and just write through the entire until about May.
May? Oh, you're going to be down here a while then.
I expect I'm going to be down there until it gets warm up back here in Connecticut. And although today is a beautiful day, today is 67 degrees in Connecticut. If it stayed like this, I'd never come to Florida. But but I don't think it's going to stay 67.
Well, if you're going to stay down here till May, I'm going to have a lot of opportunities to feed you dinners.
Well, I've never turned down food, so bring it on.
Bring yourself on, and I'll bring the dinner on.
Yeah, I have to go down there and find my brother's granddaughter. She's down there. She just graduated from college, and so he told me to come down to Florida and check on her. So I don't know where I'd start looking for a 23-year-old recent college graduate.
She's somewhere south of me, isn't she? She's down in...
She's in Roca Boca, whatever they call it.
Boca Raton.
What's that place?
We just call it Boca, but it's Boca Raton.
Okay, I know it's a Boca. So we'll start there. But yeah, very proud of her. She just graduated from university down that way, and so my brother said, "Go find my granddaughter." So I'll be doing that. In the meantime, you can fix as many dinners as you'd like.
I'm gonna.
All right. So, but yeah, the Poor Pepe is that's just a real book of love. But I guess every book I write, I call a book of love. I have The Last Drop of Sunshine and A Tiger in My House, and those are children's book. But I just absolutely love those.
I love Tiger myself.
Yeah, Tiger's really his little boy. Is about 5 years old. He comes home and he thinks he sees a tiger in his house, and then he goes inside to warn his parents, and they won't listen. So he spends the afternoon searching for the tiger, and so eventually the tiger is found. But the twist of the story is where and how he finds the tiger. So I won't get into that.
Don't
but that's
give it away.
Real sweet story. And
by the way, I think we should mention that Poor Pepe is a very short book. It's not a full length novel. It's a novelette or something.
Yeah.
It's a quick read.
Poor Pepe is a short read. Generally, if you're a strong reader, you can read it in one and a half sittings, and if you're not, probably two sittings. But it's intentionally written so that young adult readers could wrap up into it, get in it, and get out of it, and feel the satisfaction, the richness of reading what I think is a good book. And
it is a good book.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very short.
Are you doing anything with your King Daddy book?
I haven't had a minute to focus on that. I did some really good work on that. That's a children's book, fantasy children's book, which I've fallen in love with, of course. But I put that aside because I really wanted to finish up Poor Pepe with quality, and then Mansango snuck in there, and so I wanted to get that done. So I expect that probably sometime this summer I will get back to King Daddy, but it's a very difficult book to write because it's rich in fantasy, with kids going on an adventure through the jungle and having to overcome evil and all these kinds of things. So it has a lot of words, a lot of pictures, and so it's much longer than a traditional children's book. So it's really the challenge is how to do it in a way that you don't lose the kids, inside all the words and size of the book.
Well, we've got about 2 minutes, Michael. What would you like to tell our listeners in those 2 minutes?
My, time flies when you're having fun. But no, I just, I think you've really hit on it. The things that I'm doing that I love, Poor Pepe, Mansango's Three Loves, and of course later on I've got to pick up King Daddy, which is a children's fantasy story. You, in your introduction, you said I enjoyed racquetball, and I have up until sort of recently, and my knees have been acting up, so I don't get out on the court like I used to. But anytime I can get on a cruise ship and go to warm weather, I'm still good to go. So I'm not going to cruise, but I'm heading to Florida.
I'm waiting for you with an open kitchen.
All right. Well, I've enjoyed the interview, and this may be my last one with you, but
it is. I guess I'll let the audience in on it. Next week is our last show. Next week.
Did I tip the hand?
You did, but that's all right. Next week is our last show, so after that it's bye. So
next week is a historical show that everyone should sort of join in and wish you well.
It may be a hysterical show.
Yeah, it may be hysterical. And speaking of hysterical, congratulations on the book you just released. Seniorhood is not for sissies. Isn't for sissies.
Seniorhood isn't for sissies.
I've heard it's gotten really good reviews, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Well, our time is about up. Thank you for being my guest. Again, you can get Michael's books at Acute, ACUTE, by BY, Design, DESIGN.com. You can get his There's a Tiger in My House and The Last Drop of Sunshine there also for your kids, as well as Poor Pepe now and Mansango's Three Loves soon at that location, as well as Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble.com. And now I have to advertise our sponsor. So let you go, Michael. Thank you for being a guest.
All right. And peace out.
Peace out.
Power.
Pardon me, something in my throat. In the Spotlight is brought to you by Crimson Cloak, and Crimson Cloak Publishing is proud to present its 3 ebooks for $5 deal. Good at www.crimsoncloak.com. crimsoncloakpublishing.com. Be sure to use the discount code 3FOR4 3FOR5 at checkout. Good on any ebooks, $3.99 or less. You still have to pay sales tax. Good for the month of November, so hurry up and get there, get your books, get ready to do a lot of reading. It'll be too cold out unless you're down here in Florida where I am. It'll be too cold out to do a lot of outdoor activity, so you can curl up with a good Crimson Cloak book. Now, let me bring on my next guest, Aaron Gendle. Let me reach him on Skype, which is how we get our guests on. A Gendle _1, and Skype is not recognizing his name. A Gendle _1. Why is this not working? Folks, we're having a technical issue again. Not for the first time. We're having a technical issue, folks. A Gendle _1. People all Skype directory connect with material link on a profile, invite via email. Hopefully that's him calling me. Aaron, good. I was trying to reach you and I couldn't get through.
Something's up with my speaker here, sorry. Hold on.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Testing. Hello?
Aaron? More technical issues. Hello, Aaron.
Okay, yeah, I got you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good.
I got you.
I was trying to reach you on Skype and it wasn't recognizing you.
Okay, weird. Okay. Well, I'm here now. Is this okay?
Good. First of all, am I pronouncing your last name right? Is it Gendle or is it Gendle?
Yeah, you got it right the first time.
Gendle. Okay. Oh, God. Let me introduce you. Aaron Gendle is the best-selling author of Conquest, 10 Simple Steps to Conquer Life and Leave a Lasting Legacy. He is the founder of WriteABookUniversity.com, where he helps others write books, self-publish, and leave their legacy. He also hosts the Daily Authors Podcast, where he interviews brilliant new authors daily Does that make me a brilliant new author since you interviewed me?
It does.
Thank you. And helps them spread their book message. Additionally, he helps authors create a larger impact and reach by coaching them through the creation of their own interview-based podcasts. He has overcome a chronic bowel disease without medication and is a finisher of the super difficult Ultra Beast Spartan race. He lives on the beautiful Emerald Coast of Florida with his wife and 4 kids.
Four kids? Yes.
Now, he says first and foremost he's coming on the show to speak about his book Conquest. Conquest chronicles his journey to overcome a chronic bowel disease and the steps he took to heal himself naturally without medication. He found that it required both a change in his physical health and also some huge changes in his mental health as well. This challenge and triumph led him to write Conquest and propelled him down a path to help others leave a legacy with the book as well. Today he spends his days consulting and speaking with new amazing authors on his podcast, where he attempts to spread the news about other books and incredible stories. Have I got that right?
You got it.
Good.
Thank you.
So you overcame Crohn's disease.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
Yes.
I have an associate who has Crohn's disease, and she's
wow.
missing a lot of her innards because of it.
Yes, that can be an outcome of it, unfortunately, for some, yes.
Well, let me ask you some questions, Aaron. Ready?
Yeah. Are we on live right now? Are we going?
We're on.
All right.
First of all, tell us more about yourself and what you're up to now.
Yeah, absolutely. So you gave a bit of a summary. So I'm coaching, helping others write books. I actually came from a background in the computer world and did a lot of consulting there, and ran a consulting firm for a while, and still dabble there. I help out other companies with their data, but now I'm just really passionate about helping others with the books. I've got a lot of books that are in the back of my mind and that I'm working on right now. Not all of them at the same time, obviously, but I'm working on other books and really enjoy podcasting. Been doing that just for about a few months now, and have had a lot of success. And I think I interviewed around 100 different people in just a couple of months, different authors from around the world. So that's been amazing. And really just trying to help others spread the news about their books. I found that when I launched my book, I saw the need there that basically no one reached out to me. And from a podcasting perspective, I was thinking maybe others would reach out, and I've had to do that on my own mostly. And I figured, well, others could probably use a little help there too. And I also just wanted to connect with others who had like-minded people that shared. Like obviously we're authors, we have that in common, but also really focused. My book was in sort of that self-help space, and so I focused a lot on that in my podcast. And I'll talk a little bit more about what the biggest benefits of that later, but that's just been an awesome experience. So I'm doing that and trying to help others do the same because I've had such success with it. I feel like I can help a lot of people do that.
Tell us more about your book, Conquest, 10 Simple Steps to Conquer Life and Leave a Lasting Legacy. What's the high-level overview out of it?
Yeah, sure. So the book came about, as you mentioned in your intro of me, about 5 years or so ago. I started experiencing some physical symptoms that weren't normal. And turns out only maybe 9 months prior to that, actually, I was running and I owned a surf-inspired fitness gym in California. So I was in really good shape, taking care of myself, and I felt really good. And then we my wife getting pregnant with our second son, and we thought, hey, it would be time to maybe get closer to family because we were off kind of on our own in California there, and a lot of her family were off in Iowa, and we figured it might be a good place to raise a family. Well, in that process, we sold our gym and made plans to move back to Iowa, and along the way, I sort of, I didn't focus as much on my health. I had a lot of other things going on. I took a lot of time to, move, and in that process, actually, we were talking about building a new home. Again, like I said, my son was going to be born, and I was starting a new job, and we were in the process of trying to build a new custom home. So there were all these things going on, and I let my health slip a bit and put that on the side. And from a Crohn's perspective, the medical field will say that they don't know what the cause really is. They'll say that it can be genetic, and there isn't any certainty around it. But in my heart, I felt like I let a lot of stress and not taking care of myself really somehow that I feel like affected me, and how I eventually became diagnosed with Crohn's. So that's just the backstory of how I got sick, and the book came about because of the results that I got and the journey that I took to help myself overcome that. And I was really determined when I finally did get diagnosed. I was already on the process because I had already been this is the kind of guy I am. I do a lot of research and studying, and I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me, because when I went into the doctors, they didn't really know, and they did some preliminary tests, and it took a while before they did other tests that eventually led them to determine that I had the disease. But by that time, I was already taking a lot of steps towards natural steps towards healing myself, because of I knew the pain, or not the pain, but the medication, I guess, a lot of times, and some of the surgery that sometimes people have to go through to help them just live a more normal life was very scary to me, and I didn't want to go through that. I didn't want to take the medication that can lower your immune system, and very expensive. And so there was a lot of things that I was just very afraid of, and I had just small kids. I wanted to have that energy. So I guess, a long story short, the book came out of my results to heal myself, and I'll talk about that more later. But that's the high-level overview. The steps I took, both physically and then mentally, I felt like I was allowing stress to overwhelm me, and all these things started to just build up to this stress in my life, and the physical side of what I was missing as well, like eating and exercising. And so that's what summarizes, I guess, the book. And I really wrote it for my kids, because I thought the whole time I was thinking, hey, what if my kids go through this down the road, or what if they experience this in the future? And it might be nice to have a record of what I went through, what I thought, and how I went through and overcame this thing. So even if it wasn't Crohn's for them, it was something else that might challenge them. They might use these same steps to overcome it.
Well, that's amazing, just amazing. So how actually, specifically, did you overcome Crohn's without medication?
Yeah. Good question. So I won't get into too much of the detail, but I started to do a lot of research and found other people in forums, which most of the forums were pretty negative. Facebook groups, a lot of people were suffering, and I came to find certain doctors that believed in some more holistic practices and that had great success with their own clients. And a lot of it came down to and I think this can be a very good approach no matter if you have Crohn's or if you have other physical ailments, because I believe a lot of times what we eat is a big impact on what, the energy we have in our life, the strength that we have to go throughout our day. So I think our food is just a huge part of that, and also our physical exercise. But it came down to a specific doctor that I started following. His name was Dr. Hyman, and he had a process of basically eliminating a lot of things in your diet And so I went on this big elimination diet. It really came down to like drinking vegetable soup that had no vegetables in it. It was just like the broth, and like started to give my stomach a break basically from digesting, allowing it to heal itself more by itself, and giving it things that, you know, the nutrients it could use to do that without having to tax the digestive system. So I went into this elimination diet, and I did a lot of juicing, did a lot of blending, which is smoothies, which is different than juicing, but basically gave myself a lot of nutrients without having to, you know, like I said, have my body tax itself by digesting heavy foods like maybe meats would, or other things. Even the vegetables that were good for me, I blended them just to allow myself not have to have my stomach and digestive system process all of that. And so that, along with just solid exercise, which I already knew, like I said, I ran a gym. It was just didn't really actually do a lot of that. I just did some light exercise because really it was mostly focused on the diet. And then, you know, I did that for a period of time, and then slowly started reintroducing foods back into my diet as I started feeling better. And within 3 months of really starting to feel bad, I was probably feeling like the best I had ever felt in my life again. So just through going through that diet process. And then at the same time, it was kind of a jump start into my own self-development journey, because I hadn't been really focused on that. And I started to realize, hey, I was allowing all these outside factors, again, stress me out and bog me down. And so I started to just read books and really just start to invest in myself more heavily, and understand that I was letting all these outside factors really influence me, and started to develop better practices around that, better mindset practices.
Now, Aaron, what in the heck is an Ultra Beast Spartan race? And how do you overcome fear and doubt and go on to finish the race with a chronic disease? But first, what the heck is it?
Sure, yeah. So it's a pretty cool thing. I guess if you, it depends on I guess if you are into this sort of thing. But some of the stuff's been on TV. But the Spartan thing is more of a like if you've seen that movie Gladiator, it's kind of that feel. You know, like they make an obstacle course essentially out of you know, just a big stretch of land, and make you jump over walls and climb ropes and do all these kinds of obstacles. And so there's different levels of the Spartan race, and, you know, all the way down to like a 5K with obstacles to the Beast is, I think, 12 or 13 miles. And then the Ultra Beast is a 30-mile race with 60 or more obstacles. So that's the biggest one that the Spartan brand has. That's the biggest race. And funny enough, I never ran any of the other races, like the lower, you know, the 5K or the 12 mile. I didn't run any of those. I was going through this process of actually writing my book, and I said, you know, I had a chapter on writing and setting big goals, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I better do practice what I preach here and go for the biggest one. So I ran the longest race, which was the 30 mile, 60 plus obstacles. And a lot of that came down to some of the stuff I've implemented with the mindset that I had. And a lot of what actually came up was fear and doubt, which I think stops us in a lot of things we want to accomplish in our life. And I even asked a lot of the authors that I'm interview daily this question, you know, what keeps them from writing a book, or what helped them overcome the fear? And the common answer, and the thing that really helped me, was just moving forward day by day. And I even experienced doubters close to me. And it's funny enough, because I think a lot of times we do that, like the people closest to you have sort of that biggest influence. And my wife has actually been the biggest encouragement to me in a lot of the stuff I've done. But at that moment, she was actually one of the people that was like, hey, Aaron, you haven't been training much for this. And I hadn't been training like I probably should have been. Are you sure you want to do this? And she kept asking me, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And it doesn't matter how far I get. I'm just going to make it happen. And so I just approached that with each workout. I didn't try to beat myself up for not being able to race. I should have probably been able to run, 20 miles the race the weekend before or whatever, but I was still just running 3 to 6 miles, and I just went for it, and I took the race step, and I was like, hey, as far as I can get. And I think that's the thing that can help all of us get through the fear and doubt of anything we want to do, is just taking it one step at a time and continuing to move forward and kind of starving that doubt, if you will.
What's the best thing that's helped you achieve big things in your life, like overcoming Crohn's? What's the best thing that's helped you?
Yeah. So I think the very first thing, and I write about this in my book, one of the very first chapters is a chapter in belief. And so I think a lot of what we try to do in our life, and I find myself doing this even today with some things, and I have to step back and be like, hey, what is creating these limiting beliefs or doubts about this thing or another? But really the biggest thing is belief, because our thoughts really create our reality. And I truly believe that. So if we wanted to do anything, and if we immediately toss the idea out and say, hey, it's impossible, instead of really just letting the idea linger and say, hey, well, maybe this is possible, and just kind of leaving that space in our mind to believe that something is possible. So that this is what really helped me with Crohn's, because really all the doctors would have said, Aaron, you need to be on medication for the rest of your life. And I haven't taken any medication since I've been diagnosed, or since I had any symptoms. And so there weren't a lot of people that really follow that methodology. A lot of them would say, Aaron, you're crazy right now. Even if I sometimes go into my regular doctor and he's like, so Aaron, you're not taking medication. And, he probably doesn't agree with the methods that I'm even using necessarily. But the idea that I've just found that and believe that it's possible has led me to find solutions that has allowed it to be possible. And so I guess I would encourage anybody that is out there that has anything they want to overcome or any goal. I think it starts with believing that it's possible.
What's been your biggest failure in life, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, so the biggest failure I feel like I've made in my life is a period of time where I, gave up on developing myself. And I constantly play this quote in my mind now, but it's the quote by, I think Warren Buffett said, the best investment you can make is in yourself. And I really had a big period of time where it was sort of that I didn't know what I didn't know period of time, but I also wasn't seeking to improve myself, and I wasn't having that self-reflection and discovery to where I said, hey, Aaron, is the path you're on right now the way you want to go? And if it's not, then maybe you could find some answers to help you. And it almost took me getting sick to start to do a lot of that self-reflection and start to understand, okay, what's this legacy that I want to live, and start to really improve myself with really it's reading and listening to books. And now my best practice I have for that is talking to authors and hearing their stories and all the work that they've put into the self-development books they've written. And I get the honor of hearing them talk through that every day, and encouraging not only the listeners but in myself as I listen to them and try to pick up those nuggets as they are on my podcast. So that's the biggest thing that I can say has been both a challenge or something I failed at, but now I'm moving towards a better path.
Well, speaking of having your podcast, what's been the best part about having a daily podcast, speaking to self-help authors every day? What's been the best part of that?
Yeah, so the best parts, I've alluded to some of them. The best part for me has been a few things. One, it's really been awesome just to connect with people, and I think in the digital age we're in, it's easy to stay unconnected, and even with our own families, with all of our phones, and it's pretty rare to have just a one-on-one conversation. I feel like with like we are right now, and and just have that connection and not be distracted by phones or by looking at our emails or social media accounts. So that's been a really awesome experience, and it's also been connecting with the people that I feel are very much in tune with the mindset that I have now, and others that are writing books have devoted a lot of time and effort to do that. Right? They've got motivation and some motivation and inspiration to a lot of times that people have written the books to help others is the biggest response I get to reason they have, and it's the same mission I'm on, and so we're in alignment there. So that's been another amazing part of it. And then another big part has been that I'm being just able to help others share their message and get their message out there, and hopefully help others with their books. And I think lastly, it's just been another way, like I've mentioned, to really connect with others, to develop myself, right? So as I mentioned in the previous question, the best investment you can make is in yourself, and I feel like that's a huge part of what has helped me and motivate me and inspire me on a daily basis is talking to other inspiring and motivating self-help authors.
I believe you have a favorite quote. Would you share it with us?
Sure. So this quote is a big part of what encompassed my book. It kind of summarizes what Conquest is about, and one of my final chapters is about legacy. So this is a quote by Ben Franklin. He says, "If you would not be forgotten as soon as you are dead, as soon as you're dead and rotten, either write things worth reading or do things worth writing about." And I love that quote. I actually like to change that "or" into an "and." So instead of just one or the other, I think if you could do both, I think that's my goal. So I'm all about writing books and helping others with their books, and helping others who have written books get their message out. And that's the legacy I want to leave. I want to leave dozens of books behind, and I think those will go on to help others and hopefully thousands and thousands of people. And not only that, but do big things in my life. Obviously writing a book is a big thing, but other big things that others might want to write about. And so I guess that's sort of encompasses what Conquest is about. I think I did a pretty big thing with overcoming the disease I had, and wrote a book about it. And now I'm trying to continue on, not, moving past the disease and more about, other big challenges I can overcome and just help other people.
Aaron, let's wrap up by telling people where they can get in touch with you, where they can hear your podcast, how they can get on the podcast if they're authors, and how they can get your help if they want to be part of writerbookuniversity.com. So
sure, yeah. So the writerbookuniversity.com is, you can go there. There's a free 4-lesson video course you can take that absolutely free. It can just help you on your path to writing a book, and you can connect with me there if you want to get one-on-one coaching, and at that you'll get some offers in that free video course in that regard as well. But then my podcast is at dailyauthors.com. You can also find it, on all the major podcast platforms like Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. But if you are an author and you're very interested in, especially if you're in the self-help space, then there's a contact form there, and you can reach out to me, and I'd love to hear about your book. And it's a pretty simple process from there. If pretty open to most people. I do have daily podcasts, so I need a lot of authors. I'm talking to a lot of authors, and be open to having you on the show.
Aaron, if you ever run short of guests and you're willing to have people back for a second time, I'm up for it.
So, sounds good. Yeah, awesome. I know you've written a lot of books yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah, congrats on your recent book.
So consider me if you're ever, willing to have people back on for a second time.
Absolutely, will do. Yeah, that's coming up. So I'll check out your latest books, and I'm sure I can find one, another one that we could talk about. Appreciate it.
Aaron, our time is up. Thank you very much for being a guest on the show, and good luck to you in all your endeavors. As I always say at the end of the show, don't forget to pass a smile along. See you next week. This is
all right, thank you so much, Cynthia.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to In the Spotlight with your host, Cynthia McGregor, brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing. For a wide variety of books for both adults and children in print, ebook, and audio formats, join us every Tuesday at the same time as In the Spotlight brings you interesting guests to entertain and enlighten you. I'm Carly McCracken. On behalf of Crimson Cloak Publishing, thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again next week.